Hello again, and welcome back to Ride Rescue. In this episode, I'm going to do a bunch of work on the dash. So I'm going to start with fixing some of the breaks and cracks in the dash so that I can put the switches and things back in it. And there's a piece across the bottom that goes underneath the steering column. The little tabs are broken off on that, so I'm going to try my best to save it. This dash is, I think it was almost $300. So I definitely want to save this panel. So in this episode, I'll walk you through my attempts to save it. Hopefully it works out. So there's a couple of things that I want to work out here. One is the switch mounting points are broken off. And another thing that it really bugs me, this switch was replaced recently and overheated, it got stuck, and it looks like it almost caused a fire. Well, when the guy put it on, he was obviously struggling. It's crooked and it's up too high. I'm weird, but that's just not acceptable, so I've got to fix that. And it looks like the brackets broke off, similar to the way the brackets to this broke off. So they took this panel off. This panel comes off, and I'll take it off and show you. And looks like they drilled all the way through and made some kind of a mount. We'll see. I'm not exactly sure why this is so crooked, but I'm about to find out, and I'm going to fix it. Okay, well, it looks like that hole is the factory size and style hole cut out. Just happened to be that when the last person working on this put that switch in, just didn't quite get it lined up is all. It's probably pretty difficult to do with the dash still in it. So it's going to be pretty easy for me then to get that lined up and get that corrected. It's not going to be easy to do this one. And then while I'm at it, of course, I've got to do these two mounts. Those, the plastic is still attached, or pieces of it. So I'm hoping I can make some brackets there to put this back on and not have to replace this whole dash. I'm going to strip down everything and really clean this up and clean up all the parts. But one thing I want to fix too, I don't know if you can see that, there's a bow in this lens. It looks like when this lens was installed, it's binding up here at the bottom and it's pushing it out. I'm hoping I can fix that. I can push it down. It's not cracking or breaking. I'm hoping that I can heat this up, and whatever's binding at the bottom, I can trim and smooth down. And then when I heat this up, I can take that bend out of it and straighten out this lens. It's also really milky, and it looks like it might have some fine cracks in it, so I might need to just replace this whole panel because I think the lens and everything is all part of it. I would get on Rick's site and see if this is something that can be replaced. Actually, it's just hair. There's little fine hairs in there, so there's no cracks. I should be able to save it. Got my fingers crossed. So we'll start by taking a little indicator adjustment dial out. That screws in with a little screw. I don't want to lose that screw. Oh yeah, you can see there's two little attaching points there. I'm hoping I can heat that up. Yeah, it's like dog hair is all over the inside of that lens. Looks like the mounting positions for this clock is broken as well, so I'm going to have to fix those too. It's the thing about these old cars, as they age, they get so brittle. So you can see, got a nice fork on this side, missing part of it on this side. If I position it just right and I put a little bit of a washer on that, I'm probably going to be able to get this mounted. So you can see the hairs inside of this. I'll clean all this up too. It's got a lot of dust and dirt in it. I might even look to see if they have a digital replacement for this. The clock doesn't work, but there are aftermarket digital replacements where you can take out the mechanism and put in a digital. So I'll look into that while I have it all apart. All along the bottom here, it's like extra thick plastic. I'm hoping I can trim that away. And that'll take the pressure off of that lens that is making that lens work like it did. Because it doesn't seem to have the pressure on this side, it was only on this side. Like I said, I'm going to take everything off and then I can clean it all up, get all this grime off. I'm not sure why it has a greasy residue. It's really greasy. I don't know where that would have come from. All these pieces have a lot of grime on them. These lenses, the lenses are clear, but they're filthy. So I want to just really take all of this apart and clean it up. You can see the the dirt on that. It's got some residue around each one of these mounting screws. I'm hoping I can clear that off. I'm going to clean it away. One thing I make a note of is the way these are painted on, they're silk screened on, they age and they turn to powder. And if you wipe them, you can actually wipe them right off. I don't know about this particular one, if it's on there good and solid. The car has been left inside a lot, so it's not likely, but you really run a risk of wiping those out. So if you can just lightly dust it off, or just don't even touch it at all. But you can see the mileage, 42,588 miles. If I remember right, when I sold this car, it had just over 100,000 miles on it. And he had mentioned that he put over 30,000 miles on the car recently. So he's been driving it a lot over the last few years, which is great. I love to hear that he's actually getting it out, but I want to clean that off. It bugs me, but I don't know if I should touch it and risk making things worse. There's some real delicate wires on the back of this, so you have to be careful. I'm flirting with disaster here. It's another one of those where I think if I get like a real soft bristle brush, like a paintbrush, and just lightly dust that off, I should be able to get the residue and the dust off of this. And then I won't run the risk of damaging any of the little marks. I want to be really careful taking these off too, because I don't want to split and break that plastic. But if it's going to break, it's going to break. But I'm hoping not. I want to replace this vent since the chrome is all bad on it. This is not too bad, but yeah, all right, it's bad. There's nothing broken, it's just the finish is gone. You can see the chrome painted on strip is all worn off all around this area, several areas. So once I get it all cleaned up, then I'll hand brush and touch up all that paint. And depending on how it all looks, I could give it a whole coat of paint. Looks like there's a little bit of a run right there, where probably from the manufacturer, where this was painted black and they actually got a little bit of a run in it. But overall, it looks pretty good, other than just a few areas that I need to repair and touch up. When it comes to gluing pieces together like this, you can use some epoxy. But if I was to just take epoxy and put it along this edge and stick it on that panel, it's going to hold a little bit, but it's not going to hold good enough. So in order for it to have any longevity and any strength, I like to coat it with a fabric. So then you're treating it more like fiberglass. And by having that fabric coated, I'll have to make up some more and just really coat all the surface on inside and out. Then you've got something that once this cures, it's got some real bite to it and it's got some strength to it, and it'll hold it all together. Now when I wrap this piece in the epoxy, I'll have to drill that hole out. Then I can sandwich that piece in, and I can press that epoxy into that fabric. Now once this cures, it's like a cast, a broken bone, and then I can add another coat of epoxy to the outside of it, like you would a fiberglass. Now I don't want this piece wrapping onto the face, so I'll have to trim that off. So what I'll do is I'll just bring this around to the back side a little bit. Now I will wipe off that residue on the front. Where this mounts over with that bracket, it will hold it back away so that it mounts flush. And like I say, now once it's cured, I can finish trimming off these edges and then I'll drill that hole out. That'll give that some strength. I'll do the same thing with this side. Well, this is one of those areas where I look at it as it's already broken, so I can't make it worse. I can only just make it better, and I might be able to save the guy some money. This is a pretty expensive panel, to say the least, when it comes to just needing a little bit of love. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to reinforce these. This one is gone. It's nowhere to be found, so there's nothing I can do about that. So I am going to make up some fiberglass type panels again. I'm going to wrap each one of these. Now when I press this in, I'm going to leave these screws, and now I'll wrap those again like another broken bone. Now I will heavily coat both pieces. Next guy, he's not going to be able to get these off without breaking them. There's a slight possibility these screws will back out without breaking, but most likely it'll break. But like I say, this is already broken. It's not usable if I don't do this kind of a patch. This patch probably work forever as long as the switch is good. And if anybody ever needed to pull this dash out, they just unplug the switch and the switch would stay on the dash. You can't get in there to take these off anyways. So the next guy that comes along is going to see this patch and scratch his head going, wow, that's weird. But it should work, and I'm going to test it once it dries. You can see these have dried. These have dried super hard already, and it's only been maybe an hour, not even an hour. So this should work out really well. And then I'm going to take and put a piece across here since this post is completely gone. Now, the next guy that comes along, if he does need to remove this switch for whatever reason, he could probably break it off, and this will break loose off from the metal piece, so it could be cleaned up and used. You can buy these switches. You can buy this panel. So, am I destroying anything that isn't already broken? No, other than the switch. But the switch isn't destroyed. So I'm not going to feel bad about this patch, and I'm feeling really good that this patch is actually going to work very well. Just to show how strong this is. You can see I can go back and file these. If I would have just glued those on and just buttoned the pieces together, I couldn't do this. I'll trim up the ends of these off a little bit. Like I said, I'll just trim off this end. I don't know if I really need to. Actually, let's take that part. Set it in place here. No, there's no reason to trim that down. No, I'll just drill those holes, and that repair's done. See how strong that patch is. I want to be able to get this clip on. I want to file it down just a little bit. It looks like that should fit. Now I'll drill those two holes and we're golden. But you can see how rough I'm being on this when it hasn't even been on there very long. That holds extremely well. There we go. It is plenty strong enough. I've got good bite on the screws. Well, thank you for watching this episode of Ride Rescue. Stay tuned. I got more interior. I got to do the console still, and I want to finish up on the dash. And then I will start painting all the pieces that go to the convertible top, all the framework. And I did finally get a new top in. So I've got a new top, new back window, new pads, a new well. So as soon as I get all those pieces painted, and I get finished tinkering with the dash and the console, before I put all the interior back in, I want to put the top back on. So stay tuned for that. Really appreciate you tuning in to my videos. If you like what I'm doing, please give me a like, share if you will. If you haven't already, subscribe. Everything you do that way really helps out. I love to hear from you if you want to leave me a comment. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. Goodbye for now.